Hello, everyone, and welcome back. We're going to jump into the non-land, non-artifact, non-enchantment cards of the Scrapy Survivors Precon deck from the Fallout series. It's going to be a little bit of a quicker video, I hope, because there's not a whole lot of cards that don't fall into those categories, but let's just go ahead and get into it. All right, so the first one that we're going to look at is Inventory Management. It's a 2-cost instant with split second, so that means that as long as it's on the stack, any player can't activate abilities or cast spells until it has been resolved. So it can't be countered, it can't be responded to, or anything like that. And it says for each aura and equipment you control, you may attach it to a creature you control. So this just allows you to redistribute how you have your creatures loaded up. And it's an instant. So you could say, let's say that you had dog meat with everything on it, and somebody plays a card that destroyed dog meat. You can play this and cause all of these, everything that's attached to him to just automatically go to another creature. So you don't have to worry about losing all of your auras and stuff that you already had on there. And whatever else the case may be, it just allows you to completely reconfigure the way that you're set up. Single combat is a 5-cost white sorcery. Each player chooses one creature or planeswalker they control and then sacrifices the rest. Players can't cast creature or planeswalker spells until the end of your next turn. So it's a pseudo board wipe, but then also prevents players from rebuilding their board state until end of turn. Now this can be very powerful in this deck because you can choose your own let's say you building up dog meat, right? You can choose dog meat and board wipe everybody else for the most part. And if dog meat has something like menace or unblockable on it, well, specifically menace, then there's no way for your opponents to block it, and you can just pretty much storm right through. So, yeah, single combat, very powerful in this deck. Next up, we have Breakdown, which is a 3-cost instant. Destroy target artifact or enchantment and create a junk token. Very straightforward, gives you that junk token, which in this deck, I mean, this deck being such low cost, junk tokens are kind of okay, I could see. Still not a huge fan of them personally, but there you have it. Path to Exile. Love Path to Exile. It's a 1-cost exile target creature. Its controller may search the library for a basic land card and put that card onto the battlefield tapped and then shuffle. Very good for eliminating annoying commanders. It does give your opponent a little bit of a land advantage, but another thing that you could do is you could play this on yourself. Let's say that you have that aura that you can put on a land that allows you to tap that land to create a green squirrel creature. You can tap that and then play Path to Exile on that squirrel and give yourself another land. So very utilitarian. You can use this all the way around. You can use it to get rid of a problem. You can use it to build up your own land ramp. So I definitely say love that card in just about every deck that it's in. Valorous Stance is a 2-cost instant. You may choose one of the following 2 options. Option 1, target creature gains indestructible until end of turn. Option 2, destroy target creature with toughness 4 or greater. So options of you can either use it to protect or destroy. I love versatile cards like that. For a 2-cost, it's fantastic. Megaton's Fate is a 6-cost red sorcery. Again, choose one. Disarm, which is destroy target artifact and create 4 treasure tokens. So that's a very good ramp. Megaton's Fate or Detonate, which Megaton's Fate deals 8 damage to each creature. Each player gets 4 rad counters. So there's a little bit of instance of rad counters, and dealing 8 damage to each creature. As you buff up the creature that you're putting all your stuff on, it definitely is likely to survive. Just being honest. You'll probably have a toughness higher than 8, and most of your opponents won't, generally speaking. And so choosing that other option can pretty much have a high chance of board wiping your opponents there, while maintaining your big creature. So that's always very good to have. We have Chaos Warp, which is pretty common in any red commander deck precon. I've seen instances of it in almost every single release. It is a 3-cost instant. The owner of target permanent shuffles it into their library and then reveals the top card of their library. If it's a permanent card, they put it onto the battlefield. This is a very risky card because it can help your situation, or it can make it 10 times worse, depending on what that next card is. If, for example, you're like, oh, hey, you know what? Your enchantment here is causing me some headaches. I'm going to play Chaos Warp. And then the next thing you know, they're flipping over the top card of their library, and it's Ulamog, and they get to free cast Ulamog straight onto the battlefield. And you're just like, well, crap. That didn't work. So it can really bite you depending on what ends up being flipped. But it does work fairly well as targeted removal. Just kind of a bit of a risk there. Blasphemous Act is a 9-cost sorcery that costs 1 less to cast for each creature on the battlefield. And Blasphemous Act deals 13 damage to each creature. Again, there's a chance that this one would not kill your big creature as you build it up. So having that in here, very solid. Especially if you're playing against opponents that have a whole bunch of creatures, you'll be able to cast it for pretty darn cheap and be like the last one standing with a creature, hopefully. So definitely like that in here. Heroic Intervention is a 2-cost instant. Permanents you control gain hexproof and indestructible until end of turn. Good protection of your board state. Cancels out board wipes, most board wipes. And for being a 2-cost instant, definitely good to have in your back pocket. All right. Now, getting into the creatures here, we'll start off with the legendary creatures, and then we'll go ahead and get into the non-legendary ones. There's a pretty good selection of legendary creatures in this deck. A little bit higher than I was actually expecting when I first started opening it up, and some of them are pretty darn powerful. The first one is 3-Dog Galaxy News DJ. It's one of my favorite cards in this deck here. He's a red-white human bard that is a 1/5. And he has the ability, whenever you attack, you may pay 2 and sacrifice an aura attached to 3-Dog Galaxy News DJ. When you sacrifice an aura in this way, for each other attacking creature you control, create a token that is a copy of that aura attached to that creature. So basically, let's say you have an aura attached to 3-Dog, and you're going to swing with 3-Dog. You can sacrifice this aura to put a copy of this aura on all other attacking creatures you control. Which is pretty phenomenal. Unfortunately, you wouldn't be able to put one of those tokens back onto 3-Dog in the first place, because he does say each other creature, but overall gets the job done. It can be very, very powerful and very good for all those instances of generating tokens. If you were to put a bunch of all your auras on 3-Dog, you could, even if 3-Dog isn't the one that you're buffing, let's say that Dogmeat is the one that you're putting everything on, but you're also generating some tokens off to the side. Whenever you would play an aura spell, I would recommend putting it on 3 Dog and then using this ability to sacrifice it. Because then not only would you be putting one on Dogmeat, but you would be putting one on each other attacking creature. And the other thing, too, is it does say each creature. It doesn't say target, which means that instead of targeting with your auras like you would normally do, I'm about 95% sure that that would get around Shroud. Because Shroud makes it so that you can't even target a creature with abilities, but I believe that this would get around Shroud and still allow you to do that. So anyway, 3 Dog is a fantastic card. Good option for commanders if that's what you were wanted to do. Build a good Boros aura deck. Next up, we have Cass, Hand of Vengeance. Is a 4-cost, also red-white, 4/3 with Vigilance. Whenever Cass or another creature you control dies, if it was enchanted or equipped, return any number of aura cards that were attached to it from your graveyard to the battlefield attached to target creature, and then attach any number of equipment that were attached to it also to that same creature. So this is basically means that when your creatures die, all of your stuff that is equipped to them just automatically go to another creature. So that can be very helpful. Ian the Reckless is a 2-cost 2/1 human warrior. Whenever Ian the Reckless attacks, if it is modified, meaning if it has a aura, enchantment, or a counter on it, you may have it deal damage equal to its power to you and any target. So it hits both you and your opponent. For however much is its power is. So can go both ways. You got to kind of be careful about when you use it, because if it hits you, that's obviously not necessarily good. But if it hits you in a way that you can recover from, then that's just fine. I would consider pulling this card out, but that's just me personally. We have Duchess, Wayward Tavern Keep, which is a 4-cost red 4/3 with the following ability called Hunters for Hire. Whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to a player, put a quest counter on it. You may pay 1 and remove a quest counter from a permanent you control to create a junk token. Now, while they're in this deck, there is a solid number of cards that involve quest counters. There's only a couple, and they're all creatures. So as far as synergy goes, there's not really a whole lot of synergy between Duchess and Dogmeat. So I would consider pulling this one and replacing it with a card that more closely fits with what the commander is trying to accomplish, such as Moira Brown here, Guide Author, which is a red-white 3-cost, 2/3. When Moira Brown, Guide Author, enters the battlefield, create a colorless equipment artifact token named Wasteland Survival Guide. With equipped creature gets +1/+1 for each quest counter among permanents you control and has equipped 1. So maybe not this one, but we're dealing with quest counters here. But it also has, whenever you attack, put a quest counter on target non-land permanent you control. So this card, Moira here, ties Duchess into Dogmeat. So in order for Duchess to really be useful, you need to have another card with Duchess to synergize with Dogmeat there. So Duchess, I would say, would be more of a utility card. But overall, I think we could still do better. So Duchess Moira allows us to cheaply generate a bunch of, specifically, not a bunch. Sorry. I started talking about Duchess and I confused myself there for a second. When Moira Brown enters the battlefield, so once you are creating a Wasteland Survival Artifact equipment that has equipped 1. So Moira's pretty good, not bad. you're adding quest counters here. You're adding quest counters with Duchess. They're kind of bouncing off of each other there, which is making these Wasteland Survival Guide equipment pretty darn strong. Here's the alternate commander for the deck is Preston Garvey Minutemen, who is a 5-cost white, green, red. 4/4. At the beginning of combat on your turn, create a green aura enchantment token named Settlement attached to up to 1 target land you control. It has enchant land, and enchanted land has tap, add 1 mana of any color. Whenever Preston Garvey Minutemen attacks, untap each enchanted permanent you control. So, he, at the beginning of combat on your turn, basically allows you to make it so that one of your lands taps for any mana that you want, any color. And whenever Preston attacks, you're going to untap all of those permanents. And most of your creatures and stuff are probably also going to have enchantments on them. And so they will all essentially have vigilance. All of the lands that are enchanted you'll be able to double the amount of mana that they can produce on a turn, because you'll untap them at the during your combat phase. So he's a 5-cost. He's a little bit farther up there than I would like, but a very good alternate commander to this deck overall. Commander Sophia, I don't even know how to pronounce that. I think it's Daguerre. I don't know. I haven't actually played this particular Fallout game. Is a 4-cost, 1/3 legendary creature with flash and crash landing. When Commander Sophia enters the battlefield, destroy up to 1 target legendary permanent. That permanent's controller creates a junk token. So we got enters the battlefield, destroy target legendary permanent. So it's very selective and specific in its use, and creates a junk token for that creature. For a 4-cost, I'm not really sure what the heck this card is doing. I could be wrong, but I feel like there's so much more mana efficient ways of accomplishing what you're trying to accomplish here. I would replace this with another card, but again, that's just me. Next up, we have Codsworth Handy Helper. It's a 3-cost, 2/3. Commanders you control have Ward 2. Now that right there is really strong. Commanders you control have Ward 2. If you're playing partners, if you're playing single commanders, it doesn't matter. Whatever it is, it has Ward 2. Codsworth will tap to add 2 white mana to your mana pool. Spend this mana only to cast aura and or enchantment spells. Aura and or equipment spells. So he's early game, he's 3-cost, gets a mana ramp there, and he has tap, attach target aura or equipment you control to target creature you control. Activate only as a sorcery. So you can just tap him to reallocate one thing to another, which is very helpful. Next up, we have Veronica, Dissident Scribe. It's a 3-cost, 3/3 with Menace. Whenever Veronica attacks, you may discard a card. If you do, draw a card. Whenever you discard 1 or more non-land cards for the first time each turn, create a junk token. Whenever it attacks, you can discard a card that you don't need, draw a card that you do want. Keep in mind, you can discard a card that you can bring back from your graveyard with some of the rest of this deck, and be able to create a junk token. Overall, decent card. Decent card, makes sense to have her in here. Kate, Cage Brawler, is a red-green 2-cost 1/1 creature. As long as it is your turn, Kate has Indestructible. Whenever Kate attacks, you and defending player each draw a card and then discard a card. Put 2 1/1 counters on Kate if you discarded the card with the highest mana value among those cards, or tied for the highest. So whenever Kate attacks, you and the defending player draw a card and then discard a card. If your card, the card that you discarded, has a higher mana cost than theirs, then you put uh, then you put 2/1/1 counters on Kate. Now, this deck is fairly low to the ground. Remember, its CMC is 2.8. So it is entirely possible that because this deck is so low to the ground, the card that you discard could very well end up being not as expensive as your opponent's card. So maybe I would consider possibly replacing Kate with something else that might be a little bit more beneficial to you. But that is our last legendary creature, and now we only have a very small number of non-legendary creatures here. But let's go ahead and hit those real quick. Pure Steel Paladin is a 2-cost white 2/2. Whenever an equipment enters the battlefield under your control, you may draw a card. That's straightforward and self-explanatory. Equipment you control have equipped 0 as long as you control 3 or more artifacts, which is a very high possibility. So then at that point, you don't even have to pay equip costs. You can just bounce equipments on and off all over the place as much as you want. So that's obviously very good card to have in this deck. We got a 5-cost 2/5 called Bighorner Rancher. It's a creature with vigilance and has tap at an amount of mana, at an amount of green mana equal to the greatest power among creatures you control. Sacrifice Bighorner Rancher, you gain life equal to the greatest toughness among other creatures you control. So tap, add mana equal to the power of your big swinging creature. Sacrifice him to gain life equal to the toughness of your big swinging creature. So overall, he's okay. He's a little bit on the pricier side. Once you are able to, you hit 5 mana, you have enough mana to cast just about anything in the deck. So you don't really need to be generating a whole lot, but it can still be helpful. Allow you to cast more things faster if you're getting good card draw. Got Mr. Gutsy is a 2-cost 1/1 colorless artifact creature. Whenever you cast an aura or equipment spell, put a 1/1 counter on him. When he dies, create X junk tokens, where X is the number of 1/1 counters on him. So you can use him to build up, put a bunch of counters on him, and if you're equipping all of these equipments and stuff to him, he can get really big. And then when he dies, you gain junk tokens, so you're going to be able to replenish your creatures, hopefully replenish some of your creatures and get replacements out there for him. So, good card to have in here. Armory Paladin is a white-red 3-cost 3/3 with trample. Whenever you cast an aura or equipment spell, exile the top card of your library. You may play that card until the end of your next turn. That can get a little bit difficult because if you can't play that aura or equipment, then it's gone. And if, for example, you manage to hit your almost perfect aura, which is that 6-cost, then it can just get particularly nasty because once it's in exile, this deck has no way of bringing it back. So that's something you want to be careful with, and that's also something you want to be careful with those junk tokens too. So I don't know. I would probably try and do this a little bit differently. We have a good number of graveyard pull, so I might try and find something to replace that with that is more maybe mill based. But I think I would just replace it with another creature or another aura or something like that. Super Mutant Scavenger is a 5-cost 5/5 with trample. Whenever Super Mutant Scavenger enters the battlefield or dies, return up to 1 target aura or equipment card from your graveyard to your hand. There's some of that aura and equipment graveyard return. He's a 5-cost, but he's a 5/5 with base with trample. Definitely a good card to have in here considering its converted mana cost, its power, trample, and graveyard return. I definitely appreciate having that card in here. Gunner Conscript is a 2-cost 2/2 with trample. It gets +1/+1 for each aura and equipment attached to it, so just innately. Whenever it dies, if it was enchanted, you create a junk token. Okay, that's solid. And then whenever it dies, if it was equipped, create a junk token. So you have a chance of creating 2 junk tokens when it dies, and with that base of getting +1/+1 for each aura and equipment attached to it, that can build also pretty darn fast, especially if we're putting everything that's on it, or putting a whole bunch of things on it. That can, I love that card. 3-cost 1/2 Crimson Caravanseer with double strike and trample innately, so that's very good. Whenever it deals combat damage to a player, create a junk token. Decent, but it's a 3-cost with double strike and trample. If we were to put all of our equipments and stuff on this, build that up with the double strike and trample, that would just be devastating to some opponents. But we do have a lot of equipments that can grant both double strike and trample. So I don't know. I would say maybe could find something else that would suit this a little bit better. But last non-land permanent card in this deck, Brotherhood Outcast is a 3-cost 3/2 white creature. When it enters the battlefield, you may choose one of the 2 following options. The first option is return target aura or equipment card with mana value 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield, or put a shield counter on another target creature. Which a shield counter, if that creature would be dealt damage or destroyed, remove that shield counter from it instead and don't destroy it. So a little bit of graveyard return, only triggers on enter the battlefield, so it's kind of a once use. 3-cost, converted mana cost 3 or less. Overall, it's it's okay. I feel like we could probably do better, maybe like a brass Squire or something like that, but does what it sets out to do. But that is the last of our non-land permanents in this deck. In the next video, we'll go ahead and just jump over those lands, and then I'll give a brief overview and talk about what the future for this particular deck is with me, what my plans are for it, what I'm going to do, and then after that, we will go take a little bit of a break from doing the precons, and I'll go over my Ishin Two Heavens as One deck, which is a ground-up construction of my own. Go over that deck list, and then we'll return to the Fallout Precon series for the final remaining Fallout Precon that we haven't gone over yet, which is the Science deck. But for now, thanks for watching. Like and subscribe. Catch you next time.